My name is Deborah Kaufman. I am the daughter of Max Horowitz. We think that in Polish, or when he lived in Białystok, the name was probably Gurwic, and yet another name has come into being, Ickowicz. So we are here. My cousin Rina.
I'm Rina Horowitz. My father is Morris Horowitz, who is a brother of Deborah's father, Max. Although in Białystok he was known as Aaron Horowitz, he changed his name when he came to the United States.
I'm Sandra Grunberger. I'm the daughter of Max Moshe Horowitz, and my sister is Deborah Horowitz, and my cousin is Rina Horowitz. I am very excited because right here on this plaque I found the person I was named for, who was killed in the 1906 pogrom. Her name was, if somebody could reach it, I can't, Szlachter, and it says Yechiel, which means that probably her father's name was Yechiel Szlachter. That was my grandmother's mother. She was killed in 1906 in the pogrom, as was her son, Tzvi, who was the son of Dov Berel Szlachter, and they were both killed in the same pogrom. The rest of the family was hidden and were able to survive.
We should say that what we are looking to find about our family here in Białystok, where they lived and how they lived. We do know that we've always thought, or at least I have always thought of us as Russian. And we think that's because of the Russian administration, the Russian domination at that time during our father's lives here. So my father was born in 1904 and left Białystok in 1923 or 25, it's not clear. And the reason I say this is that it has been such an emotional experience to stand on the very street where we know they lived. We may not know exactly where they lived, but we know they lived on that street. We know so many stories, partial stories, that are now being filled out. And part of that story is that they lived, we believe, not in the poorer section of Nikolai Street, but rather in a more mixed area. And the reason that we think this is that my grandmother had a store, a small grocery store, that she opened, and that we believe they lived either in that store, in that house with the store, and or very near that, in a courtyard area. And in that courtyard area lived a colonel. Rina, can you just add the name? And
I don't remember exactly how to say the name. Mikolanowicz, yeah. A Russian colonel named Mikolanowicz. And also in that complex lived another, a retired Jewish banker named Szrajber, something,
yes.
Yeah. And right as the Russians were approaching in the pogrom, our father's family went to ask the banker if he could protect them, if they could come stay in his home. And he was elderly and disabled, and he had two people working for him who were not Jewish, and they turned our family away. They said it was too risky to hide them. Then my uncle, neither of our fathers, the oldest brother of our fathers, was friends with the son of the colonel. And the son of the colonel had assured my uncle before this time not to worry. If there was any problem for the Jews, his family could protect my uncle's family. And indeed, they did. They hid there for a couple of days until it was safe to come out. And during that time, they were hiding in a very small space and had no provisions. So my grandmother, who owned the general store, had asked the woman who works for the family to go to the general store and bring provisions for both them and for the colonel's family. And then I think they were there about 2 days. And then at the night of the last day, they were able to return to their home.
This is Chaim Zev. I can't see. the son of Dove Barrel. He was the youngest child of my grandmother's family, my grandmother's youngest brother. And he was also killed in this 1906 pogrom along with his mother, Szlachter.
When they finally came out literally from the closet, they had been hiding in a small, very small space in the colonel's home. My grandmother was terribly concerned about her family, her mother, her brothers, and her father. And so this uncle, our Uncle Hyman Horowitz, ran what now I think Rina said was...
Our grandmother ran to her family.
Oh, I thought he did.
He said he tagged along.
Whatever. So they went to find out what the damage was, and then they discovered that Szlachter and Chaim Zev had been killed in the pogrom of 1906. And my grandmother apparently was almost irreconcilable. Yeah, she simply went to pieces at that point. What that tells us is that our fathers and his brothers lived separately from the rest of the family, or at least the mother's family. And the mother's family were Szlachter. And we have now found that that family owned a mill, a lumber mill, on the same street, but much further, we believe, from where our immediate family lived.
In every generation, there were always individuals who were the exception to the rule. And obviously, he was one of them who was willing to help, especially, it's easy to kill somebody you don't know. It's much more difficult when it's a friend or somebody you know face to face, and it makes a different perspective.
And also, I think it was more the son and the woman who worked for them that asked. I don't know how close the colonel was to our family. I think the son was a friend of our uncle, and the woman who worked for them had some relationship, I think, because she shopped in the store. And it almost seems like they might have begged the colonel to let our family in. But then one other part of my uncle's essay says that at one point, the soldiers approached the store and they broke down the door, and the colonel came out with his gun and shooed them away. So he did make that big effort to protect the store and probably the family too.
You know, people would say to me, have a good time. And I said, I'm not going to have a good time. On a cruise ship, you go to have a good time. I'm going to study history of our family.
And we're here to learn as much as we can about our family's history.
It's exactly a century later, and everything has changed, especially since the war destroyed so much. You still get the sense that this was the land, this was the street, this was the area. Maybe not the same air that they breathed, but this is where they grew up.
We're here to feel try to get the feeling of the way our family lived here a century ago. And although things are much changed now, we felt, at least walking down what was formerly Nicholas Street, that it was an emotional feeling for us, because we did get a sense at least one building is the same, and probably the configuration of the street is what our fathers and the rest of their family experienced.